Well, welcome. Good afternoon. We've got a great day here in Iowa for the second day of the Iowa Ideas Water Quality In-Depth Week. Today, we've got a panel discussion about how water quality affects recreation and tourism in Iowa. And we have a fantastic panel here that I'm going to have them introduce themselves in just a moment. But first, I wanted to thank our sponsor for the Iowa Ideas In-Depth Week for water quality, and that's Hertz Farm Management. And we've got a short message from them.
Hi folks, I'm Ryan Kay with Hertz Farm Management out of our Mount Vernon, Iowa office. I'm a farm manager. We are happy to sponsor the Iowa Idea Water Quality Week. Water is a valuable resource that agriculture plays an important role in managing. I'm excited to be on the panel this week looking into the impacts of animal waste on water quality. We have been helping landowners protect streams, rivers, and lakes over Hertz's 75 years of business. If you have any questions or just like to talk about water quality and agriculture, please feel free to reach out to our office at 319-895-8858 or visit hertz.ag. Thank you.
Well, great. Well, thanks again to Hertz Farm Management for sponsoring this conversation and others this week. So let's go ahead and start with introductions, and we'll go first to Rebecca, who has the best backdrop of anyone here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Peters. I am the Okuboji Tourism Director, and today I'm sitting on a dock at Arnold's Park Amusement Park overlooking beautiful West Lake Okuboji. Obviously, my connection to this panel today is that water quality and water clarity are of utmost importance to us here in the Iowa Great Lakes area. So it's something that we're always keeping a close eye on and working towards improving our water quality in this area. I also, for about the next 8 days, serve as the president of the Travel Federation of Iowa, which is a grassroots advocacy organization for the tourism industry in the state of Iowa. And I know for all of us, destinations and attractions throughout Iowa, water quality is a very important issue that we pay close attention to and advocate on behalf of whenever possible. And then as of July 1st, I take over as president of the Iowa Travel Industry Partners, which is a statewide tourism organization that is geared towards bringing the tourism industry together and advocating on our behalf and making sure that we have the proper messaging for people. And so again, water quality is a big issue for us right here in Okuboji and throughout the state. And so I'm really excited to be a part of that and also to be a part of the panel today.
Thank you. Dr. Zhang, would you go next?
Sure. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wendong Zhang. I'm an assistant professor of economics at Iowa State University. So my work is related to both ends of the water quality discussion for this panel today. That first, I work on the source of the water pollution. So I work a lot on water. So agricultural nutrient runoff and farmer decision making, both in Iowa and also in my dissertation work in Ohio and Lake Erie watershed. I also currently is leading the Iowa Lakes survey. I will share with you some of the new findings that we have. So in addition to that, so I'm doing a lot of work related to how the general public and farmers value water quality. So there are tools that we can quantify that the beautiful lake that Rebecca is seeing and the water clarity into dollar terms. And so I'm happy to talk about those today. I'm really excited to join this panel.
Thank you. And Representative Eisenhart.
Thank you, Aaron. State Representative Chuck Eisenhart of Dubuque. Been in the legislature now for 13 years. Currently, my portfolio includes the Environmental Protection Committee, but over that time, I've served on agriculture, natural resources, ranking member on the Environmental Protection and Natural Resources and Agriculture Budget Sub. Also served on the Economic Development Budget Sub, where tourism and quality of life funding originates, so very familiar with some of those programs. And also I live on the river, not literally on the river. I'd love to, but in Dubuque, we got the Mississippi. So in that regard, I'm part of the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators, Mississippi River Legislative Caucus, where we're bringing elected officials with that particular focus together to talk about not just water quality, but the range of river issues. But I guess I would say my primary identity that connects me with this conversation is being the son of Bud Eisenhart, who passed away about 7 years ago. But my very earliest memories were of him taking our whole family out hiking the trails around Northeast Iowa. So I call myself a consumer of natural resource beauty. And he single-handedly made sure that our family over 60 years, every year got together as a family to do something in Iowa's great outdoors. And almost every one of those treks included visit to a water body or a river and a trail. So that's my personal identity. And over the pandemic, I've pretty much every day almost been outside on a trail, seeing some of the changes that are and experiencing some of the beauty that Iowa has to offer for the first time myself.
That's right. You and a lot of others of us been outside. I wanted to just offer any of our participants here today to fire us off a question for the panel, and we'll try to work as many of those into our conversation, which will wrap up just before 1 p.m. So I want to start off. Iowa State University Center for Agricultural and Rural Development has for years done research on Iowa's lakes and surveyed Iowans about the use of lakes. Professor Zhang, could you tell us a little bit about some of the recent findings and maybe why this type of research is done?
Yeah, so as you mentioned correctly, Aaron, that so I'm part of a CARD, so Center for Agricultural Rural Development is the leading agricultural and environmental policy research center across the nation. So since 2002, led by my former colleague, Dr. Cassie Kling, that ISU has done extensive surveys about 7 rounds before the 2019, from 2002 to 2014. It's called the Iowa Lakes Survey. So essentially, we identify about 139 major lakes, public lakes, so like Ada Hayden and Big Creek and Okuboji. So Okuboji is actually so large, so they're broken into several different destinations. So what we want to know is essentially these surveys have provided valuable information about where people go to. So what are the popular destinations and what are the factors when they are going out to the survey, to the lake-based recreations, what sort of the activities they do and what sort of the expenses they do, and so how, when they are considering to visit a lake, what are the factors that driving they choose a particular lake versus among all the other choices, right? So I have been overseeing the 2019 Iowa Lakes Survey that we just have finished the report, and Iowa DNR is currently reviewing the report. So Iowa DNR has been the generous funder for all the studies since early 2000. So essentially in the 2019 survey, we find, for example, consistently, as we show in 2009, 2014, water quality has been consistently the top factor driving where people choose which lake to go to. And when you are thinking about the top destinations, that Okuboji is definitely, as a group, is a major destination, but Ada Hayden Lake, for example, in Ames, are also very popular as well. When you are thinking about where people go for the trips, they typically spend most of the time during the summer months, where what is also meaningful is that we added a question about whether you will check water quality information before going on the trip. And a vast majority will check that, and a lot of people go to the DNR website to check the water quality and lake information. So consistently we find that water quality matters for people's lake-based recreation, and we also even this year we also even bring some of the respondents from out of the states that they are also visiting some of the popular lakes, especially in a lot of people from Nebraska visiting the lakes near the Omaha area too. Right. So I can answer some of the follow-up questions, but yeah, I think overall, I will put in the chat a summary of a blog I just wrote for Iowa Learning Farms, and that has some of the summary findings of the survey. And we'll be hoping to release the full report maybe later this month.
That's great. And one of the surveys in the past that I keep coming back to as a reporter for the Gazette is a 2018 study by CARD that showed Iowa could gain up to 30 million more a year if water quality was improved. I wondered, and I know that this is a couple years ago now, but if you could speak to just where would this money come from, and why is it important to know this?
Yeah, so I think when we are thinking about nutrient reduction efforts and the mitigation of the Gulf hypoxia, as Representative Eisenhart have alluded to, that this also have local water quality benefits. And essentially the studies like what you mentioned in 2018 and the study I'm doing give you some economic evaluation of water quality improvements. This can come from two brackets. That one is that can come from your recreational benefits, that this better water quality can attract more people to visit the lake, and they often would take the time off and spend some of the money. So the travel cost is an indicator of how much you value your review from your choices, right? So that's one part. But also this, if for Representative Eisenhart, if water quality improves and you live near the river or the lake, that will improve your property values as well. So that's also another bracket. And in addition, that we also know that people also value the existence of wildlife, the fact that you can see butterflies, monarch butterflies, and other valuable species. So even some of the non-use values will be capitalized in these sort of valuation as well. In one of the recent studies, we conducted another survey of Iowa general public. We find that if you have a scenario that can reduce Iowa's nitrates in drinking water by 10%, reduce the beach closure due to either algae or E. coli by 10%, plus that if you can also reduce the size of hypoxia by 10%, then Iowans on average are willing to pay $19 through more utility bill for these sort of for these interventions that can yield these water quality benefits. So I think that the reason we want to know that is because we, through the legislature, we know the governor is allocating $282 million in the water quality cost share program, and these estimates can provide some assessment on the benefits of these water quality improvements, and so we can evaluate the effectiveness of these policies for both Iowans and downstream residents.
That's great to know. And that's a good kind of framework for our conversation here. Rebecca, the Okuboji area is called Iowa's Great Lakes, and it draws a lot of tourists. I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about the economic impact in the region.
Absolutely. We work closely with the State of Iowa Tourism Office every year. And they contract with the U.S. Travel Association to do an annual economic impact study on the impact of tourism statewide, but they also break that down by county. And in Dickinson County, in the most recent survey, we saw that that tourism had over a $312 million economic impact in our area, which is just absolutely huge. And we see that over 2,000 jobs in this community are supported by tourism. So that makes tourism one of the largest employers in Dickinson County. So it definitely plays a pivotal role in our economy right here in the Iowa Great Lakes area.
And, Okuboji has all these like other attributes, great bars and restaurants and, Arnold's Park, which you're very close to right now.
I can see it right now. You can't, but I can.
How much does water quality, some people might say, well, does water quality even matter? You've got all these other reasons to go there.
I think when people come to the area, we have a lot of other things to offer for them, but they're really coming here first and foremost. That big draw is the lakes. So they want to get out on the water. They want to get out on a boat. They want to go fishing, maybe water skiing, tubing, go to our great beaches. They just want to enjoy the great recreational assets that we have right here in the area. And then we have so many businesses that have been built up around the lakes as well. So like you said, Arnold's Park Amusement Park is right here along the lakefront. And every Saturday night, they have a concert overlooking the lake and the sunset throughout the summer, which is really great. We've got boat rental businesses that are built around water quality, essentially, because if the lakes weren't clean, people wouldn't want to rent a boat and get out there. We've got fishing guides who stay busy basically all year long. And again, that's because we've got great water quality and we've got a great fishery here that keeps our fish population healthy. We've got parasailing, which makes it so fun to get out and get that bird's eye view of the lake. And then you have a number, like you had mentioned earlier, the restaurants and bars in the area. We have so many restaurants that are right overlooking the lake that have decks and patio spaces. And it's important to have clean water because nobody wants to enjoy their burger while sitting next to a stinky lake. So it's really nice that we have clean, fresh water here that people can just sit and enjoy a beverage or a burger and all the sights that they can see here. So it's very vitally important for us to have clean water here.
And, you had told me a little bit that, and others that, the Great Lakes area has been investing in the quality of the water for decades, since the 1940s. But there's some ongoing investments that it's kind of a never-ending vigilance that's needed. I wondered if you could tell us about some of the newer investments.
Absolutely. This water quality is something that's important to our whole community. And we do a great job around here, I think, of educating our public, everyone who lives here and those who visit the area, that everyone needs to chip in and do their part. And that comes down from everything from property owners along the lake doing low impact development that'll help capture and slow that water before it goes into the lake. Also thinking about the products that they're using on their yards to make sure that we don't have unhealthy runoff into the lake system. And then we also have down by the amusement park, and really throughout the entire area, they've beautified the area. And with those, they've added some different plantings and products that also help to collect and filter and slow that water. And then I know another really exciting project that we have going on. It actually started, I think, in 2012. The piece of land became identified, and then we worked through what we could do. So in the Francis Sites area over by East Lake, Okuboji, there has been a property that's been developed. And right now we're in the process of creating an 8-acre, I'm going to call it a retention pond, but that's not the official term. But this pond will help collect these major rains so that the water doesn't rush right into the lake right away. And with that, we anticipate, and that should be done yet this year, with these major rains, we anticipate that this project, it'll collect that water, it'll allow it to filter and slow down before it gets into the water, and it'll decrease a lot of sediment that will flow into the water as well. But the really exciting thing about it is that it will decrease the amount of phosphorus that'll go into East Lake Okuboji, and they predict that it'll decrease it by 79% annually, which means that I think it's over 271 tons of phosphorus less every year will be flowing into the lake. And that is going to be great for our water quality and our water clarity right here. So it's a really exciting project that a number of different entities at the state level, at the county, the city of Spirit Lake, and also our local Okuboji Foundation, everyone's chipping in to make sure that that can happen to keep our water clean.
And I know phosphorus is a big food supply for algae and some of those harmful algal blooms that can be dangerous and unappealing to look at.
Yeah, so imagine 271 less tons of phosphorus going into the lake every year. I mean, it's just amazing. It's a wonderful project, and we're so glad that the funding could come together so we could make that happen.
That's great. Well, we're going to switch from far northwest Iowa to northeast Iowa. Representative Eisenhart, your district is in the Driftless area, which is, like you said, known for great hiking trails and trout streams, and not quite as much, kind of heavy agriculture as maybe the northern and northwestern part of the state. Has there been a conscious effort to quantify the impact of tourism in that area?
Yes. Carrie Kelker, Senator from Dubuque County, is a big part of Travel Iowa, and she consistently reminds us of the economic benefits. The Driftless area is one of only 2 geographical features like it in the world, which makes it very unique. Sometimes I think there should be a Driftless National Park somewhere in northeast Iowa or southwest Wisconsin. I consider myself an eco-tourist. I don't travel anywhere in the country, or if I manage to get across a border for a meeting, without planning some time to take in the mountains, the deserts, the rivers of that area. And typically I'll wait till I get there and ask somebody, what would be the best place to see. When visitors come to Dubuque, I say, if you have time for only 2 things, take in the America's River Walk on our riverfront and the mines of Spain. Undeniably, there are economic benefits to ecotourism, but I think the main reason we need to be investing is for our own quality of life, for the place, because we live here, and create opportunities for ourselves and our children. And you know what? If people start asking us where would be the good places to go, we'll start talking about our own backyards, because I still think it's word of mouth that drives people to take in the natural resources that we have. Why do we typically go to the mountains? Because Iowans have moved there and they tell us how great it is, so we go out to visit them. So I think if we improve our own quality of life and experience it ourselves, we'll start telling people, and that will drive people to our areas, and that will create the economic benefit. So we need to be a little bit selfish, and what is it that our local folks would really like to experience? We're pretty typical. We'll say things that others, family members, others coming to the area, especially if we have like a Mississippi River, which is like the Nile, it's like the Yangtze, the Danube. It should be the one place that anybody coming to this country should want to see if they see no other single place. We can outdo New York City, in my opinion, in terms of our attractiveness, if we intentionally make that river the gateway, and the Driftless area can be the front door to that gateway.
I know you have some ideas for investing in Iowa's tourism and travel through the Federal American Rescue Plan. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, if there's anything that comes out of this meeting for people who are participating in terms of an action step, take some of your ideas to your local board of supervisors, to your city councils, and to your state legislators. State has $1.48 billion with a B dollars at its disposal to invest in pandemic recovery, including economic recovery. The tourism industry was very hard hit. Collectively, our cities and counties have another $1 billion, B with a B. And there's no reason our state and counties and cities can't team up and partner on projects. Water infrastructure is by definition an eligible expense for these funds. And soil as well. Soil is water infrastructure, as we've heard from the experience up in Okuboji and elsewhere. And so they shouldn't have to worry about whether it's okay to spend money on improving our water assets. In particular, we have a number of great programs in Iowa, and my recommendation is that we look at least doubling the amount of money we put in those existing programs, including community attractions and tourism, water trails, state park infrastructure, resource enhancement and protection. We have a unique opportunity to double down on what we're doing in those areas over the next couple of years. And I would also mention, although it's not part of that particular proposal, I will be having, and my colleagues will be having others over the course of the summer, in the natural resource area, particularly clean water, clean air, climate. We have a lake restoration program that in concept is second to none in how we do it. Chuck Gipp, who is from Decorah, one of our previous director of natural resources, made sure that program worked to a T. We don't put nearly as much money into it as we should, but basically his policy was, we're not going to go into any lake and dredge it to create better access for people without first going upstream and addressing the problems on the land that create the problem in the first place. So we're going to work with those landowners upstream to work with the sediment issues, to work with the nitrate runoff, work with the phosphorus runoff, mitigate those problems. Then we'll come in and clean up the lake so that we can enjoy them into the future. That really combines the best in terms of the needs and opportunities of both rural and urban interests in terms of our economic or our environmental assets. That's a program where I think we could put significantly more money into. And as part of it, let's start developing the amenities, more of the amenities around our lakes and streams.
Now, the Iowa DNR every summer takes water samples every week at 39 state park lakes. I'm pretty sure that's the number. And then issues a swim advisory each weekend if the bacteria levels or the toxin levels are too high. So last summer, more than half of Iowa's state park beaches had at least one advisory, and several lakes had advisories more than half the summer. Agriculture is one of the state's biggest industries and has been shown to be the primary source of non-point source pollution in the state. Just throw this out there to all three of you, how do you make the case for ecotourism and recreation in a state where you've got these other competing interests?
Well, I can go first. I think that actually they can work hand in hand. And I know here in Northwest Iowa and Dickinson County, when you come to the lakes area, you drive through cornfields and soybean fields, and then all of a sudden it opens up to the lake. So they are very close and we work very closely together. And I know our supervisors and our Farm Bureau and everyone, they keep all of that really in the forefront of their mind. And so there are a lot of different agricultural efforts that can be done just to make sure that the lakes are being protected and safe. And they're always keeping in mind where runoff is going and where our water flows. So I think everyone, as long as they work closely together, it can be a win for everyone.
I've always said we've been presented, at least policy-wise, with a false choice between a regulatory approach and a voluntary approach. I think the choice is not between voluntary and regulatory. We have a regulatory approach. The question is that going to be government regulation or self-regulation? And if the industry is not willing to regulate itself at the scale that it needs, that is what creates the drive towards government regulation. And so I think we need to see more of a proactive, positive framework around why agriculture needs to, quadruple down on what we're doing, and not just to stave off the boogeyman, so to speak, of government policy making and imposing one size fits all solutions. I think the answer is operating an agricultural operation with conservation in mind is a profitable venture. It's more profitable than many of the ways we've been conducting our agricultural operations in the past. And we need to transition folks over the year or 2 or 5 that it takes to put themselves in that position. We have many, many examples of folks using the regenerative farming concept to prove to themselves that they can make more money working more harmoniously with the natural resources around them. And we need to find more places that are showcases of this than we have now. So I think there are a number of, there needs to be more intentionality around this. It's a 365, 24/7 conversation from a legislative standpoint. It can't just be during the 100 or 110 days we happen to be together in Des Moines. We have to stop being afraid of holding each other up to higher standards than we do.
I want to add 2 points. One is that when you're looking at the agricultural conservation, I think we are still have a long road ahead of us, because if you think about the Iowa nutrient reduction strategy and the amount of the conservation and say how many land that needs to use cover crops, it's pretty substantial. And currently, the 2017 USDA Ag Census shows essentially about 4% of the Iowa's farmland is using cover crops. This is substantial improvements, doubling compared to about 5-6 years ago, but still very, very low compared to the target. Right? So I think that's one point. Another point is as an environmental economist, I feel that currently in the implementation of the voluntary approach, there are more innovation and more flexibility needs to be allowed. For example, now if you're thinking about the cost share payment, is always uniform payments to regardless the actual effectiveness in reducing the nitrogen or phosphorus runoff. I understand this is that both the states and the federal agencies want to be fair with all participants, but in terms of the effectiveness, I think there should be more assessment of what are some of the better ways that potentially can we allow different payments, higher payments levels for more effective, more impactful acres in hotspot subwatersheds? Can we have more innovation rather than just asking the farmers to choose the prescribed list of the conservation practices? So I think there are, related to that, can we, when we are allocating these state or federal funds, can we reserve small slices to conduct more formal evaluation of how these funds are relative to the water quality goals? Are they achieving the intended goals, and what are things can be changed and can be improved? So I think there are something that we can do to make this more of a go hand in hand, as Rebecca mentioned.
And if I could mention one concrete example, I think illustrates Dr. Wendong's points just now. This conversation has been happening at our own county soil and water conservation district. We can shift the farmer's focus from productivity, how much they produce of a product, to profitability, how much they earn from their work. That'll create some space for us to try some different approaches. One of them is, we know for certain that far too many producers put more nitrogen fertilizer on their land plus manure than they need to, and that depending on the weather, a lot of that ends up in our rivers and streams. It's so cheap, though, it's cheap insurance. That's why they do it. What can we do to encourage producers to put less nitrogen fertilizer on the land? What if we insulate them from, with an insurance product, the potential they feel of a bad decision? If you reduce your fertilizer input, let's guarantee their productivity. Instead of subsidizing the practice, let's subsidize the outcome with insurance. If you lose productivity and therefore profitability because of a conservation practice, we will come in on the backside and indemnify you from that loss. We will protect you from inadvertently making a bad decision for your bottom line based on a desire to have better results on the environmental side.
I think that was one of Larry Weber's suggestions yesterday in our keynote address. So you're in good company there, Representative Eisenhart. You know, one of the things I've noticed, I feel like, just as I've lived in Iowa my whole life, is it seems like people have gotten a little more used to not having clean water, they might say, oh, well, what do you expect? You know, it's Iowa, you know, or they might say, well, I'm just going boating, but I'm not going to swim. I mean, have Iowans gotten used to lakes that aren't clean? And is there a way to help people realize they can expect better?
I mean, if I could say something, I don't believe that's true here. Our community expects and demands the cleanest water possible. And we're very fortunate. We do a great job educating people. Each August, we have the Okuboji Bluewater Festival that brings people from around the state, different speakers and different organizations that allow people to be educated on water quality issues in a really fun atmosphere. And so that's always a great festival. And then prior to that, we have the Prairie Lakes Conference, which brings people from around the state together so that they can understand better practices and put those into action back in their home areas. And I also, here in the Iowa Great Lakes area, we have Iowa Lakeside Laboratory, and they do a number of research projects for the whole state, but they're doing great projects right here throughout our chain of lakes. And for more than 20 years now, they've been doing a cooperative lakes area monitoring program. And so they utilize volunteers, people throughout our community who go out to specific sites around the lakes, and they do water quality testing every 2 weeks. And so with that data in mind, we've got over 20 years of data. We've been able to show that we're seeing increased water quality in the area. And the data that they're collecting, our cities and our county are also utilizing that information to see what do we need to do to continue improving things. And are we seeing, when we put something into action, is it working? And what else can we do to make it better? So I know in our lakes, we're seeing higher and higher water clarity every year. And even in some of the lakes that you wouldn't have seen before. I know just from a personal example, I live on East Lake Okuboji, and there's kind of a quiet bay by my dock. And I would say 5-10 years ago, you would never see a boat anchor there and families swim together in that bay. And now almost every single weekend, there are a number of boats in that bay and families are spending time together in the water. And I think that's just a testament to the fact that we are continually improving our water quality here and our water clarity, and people are utilizing it and enjoying it.
And I think we need to be careful to point out that not every water body in Iowa is impaired. And I don't know that we can make change, stake our future on the basis of opinions of people who are not showing up and enjoying our rivers. I think, again, we need to focus on the people who are and want to show up and enjoy, and it's us. We need to do it because of us. I'll give you a good personal example. When I wake up in the morning and I'm rush out the door, I can show up at my first meeting looking pretty bad. But if I take the time to look in the mirror and realize I need to comb my hair and shave or wipe the grime from my face from the previous night's hike, I'm gonna do the things to make myself more presentable. So in light, what we need to do more measuring and monitoring of the quality of our water at every water body. And maybe that's something we should be doing over the next couple of years with our federal money. Let's do some more testing. Let's find out where the issues are. Let's identify what we can do to fix them, and then go about fixing them. And at the same time, we'll find out where some of our more pristine waters are. A lot of them are in Northeast Iowa. What can we do to make sure they stay that way? Parallel to this, we've got drinking water problems in this state. A lot of rural wells are contaminated for many of the same reasons as our rivers and streams are. We can, with intention, offer every person on a private well the opportunity to test their water and then give them some of the resources they need to fix any of the problems that they might have with their well, or identify the problems upstream, upland from their source to address those issues where the contamination occurs.
I want to add on to some of the discussion with some of the examples as well. I also think that sometimes that when you observe the water quality and lake-based recreation is correlated. So So our survey shows that, say, when they experience the harmful algal bloom, some would stop their activity or go to another site, right? So if people perceive the water quality is bad, then they probably will be less likely to go out. As Representative Eisenhardt said, that's part of the reason why we need to improve the water quality. We even see that with through collaboration with Iowa DNR, that there are a lot of river dredging and cleaning up recently over the last 2-3 years, and we actually observe more recreational activities along the rivers as well. I also want to echo Representative Eisenhardt that one of my PhD students has a paper which look into Minnesota's source water protection grants, where they are showing essentially that by offering these source water protection grants, essentially to cover up, seal up the wells and replacing some of the physical infrastructures, and the water quality, the drinking water quality violations for the downstream water systems, drinking water system actually have reduced significantly. So I do think that there are a lot of consistently we have seen that typically a better water quality will induce more recreational choices, and that will translate into the economic benefits and the economic impacts that Rebecca talked about.
Now, just since we've been talking a little bit about drinking water here, just a preview tomorrow from noon to 1, our panel is about drinking water. So you can come back tomorrow and kind of hear some more on that topic. I wanted to ask just on the focus of improving water quality as a means to generating more tourism, as we know from the Iowa State studies is likely to happen. You know, Rebecca talked about the retention basins. I've heard, you know, catchment basins used. I think some of that has been used at Kent Park in Johnson County. What are some ideas that you guys have seen work in other states that you think we might want to try here?
Let me throw this out there. It might not precisely answer your question. A couple years ago, I was invited to Baltimore to be part of a flood mitigation forum. We obviously been seeing a lot of that in Iowa in recent decades. Dubuque's had any number, 7 or 8 national disaster declarations. That contributes a lot to our problems on a sporadic basis. There is a federal program called BRIC, Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities, where FEMA is now spending a large percentage isn't large, but the dollar amount is huge, on efforts to prevent and mitigate potential disasters before they happen, rather than wait till they happen and then fix the problem afterwards. I think there's tremendous opportunity, again, for Iowa communities to leverage that program and focus on precisely that kind of solution that's more oriented towards flooding issues, but will have the simultaneous benefit of addressing water quality problems and related issues. And I'll just hold out Dubuque, City of Dubuque's B Branch project as a prime example. I represent the downtown area. Every time it rained more than an inch or two at a time in the space of an hour or two, dozens, if not hundreds of homeowners in the downtown area would have their basements flooded. And there they are off buying new air conditioning and heating units and replacing all the personal possessions. Since we have done our B Branch project, which opened up a buried stream, we have continued to have more and more of these downpours, but not once since we've done that project have we seen the monumental flooding affecting homeowners. And it's had the simultaneous benefit of improving the water quality so that we now have mussels that are starting to grow and ducks and fish in that stream. So again, I'll use my own community as an example. Come and visit. I'll give you a personal tour. I see 29 participants on the call, and I'd be happy to spend an hour or two with you.
So I think there are I think one of the ways that potentially could be useful is there are some synergistic activities like RAGBRAI and some other like popular things that potentially can be coordinated to feature some of the improved lakes and rivers, and so along the trails and things like that. I also I have extension duties, and sometime when I was driving out to Northwest Iowa, I even hear the ads of Arizona State University, which make me wonder that for example, that maybe some people outside Iowa doesn't know about the improvements of the East Okuboji Lake that much, that we can do some more about where the snowbirds from Iowa will go, and to attract some of the neighboring states and some of the people to Iowa outside of our backyard as well.
I agree 100%. And Rebecca, I might bring to your attention one of my Iowa Rescue Plan proposals. Last year was the 100th anniversary of Iowa State Park System. Hard to tell. We canceled most of the celebrations. I say, if the Olympics can wait a year, we can wait a year. Let's have take two. Let's give my proposal $1 million to Department of Natural Resources to partner with county conservation boards and have in every county over the next 2 years a celebration of our state and county park system as a way of doing what we just heard, getting people out there to see what we have and creating that resolve to keep it and make it better.
I am all in favor of that. We love celebrating all the outdoor spaces here, and we've got beautiful state parks, and we've got incredible county parks. And I know that the DNR and our county conservation do work very closely on a lot of different projects. So anything we can do to bring attention to those parks and to get people out enjoying them is always very favorable for me.
Well, I covered Governor Reynolds a couple of weeks ago. She was in Coralville speaking to a business group, and she said that her thought is to use some of that American Rescue Plan on kind of a marketing campaign to get people to move back to the state. Sounds like to take up some of the jobs that are in need of employees. But I wonder if you could partner, maybe promote the state through talking about some of the natural resources here. Is that marketing approach?
Well, I would say that most of the states around us and throughout the country are utilizing those funds to do that. So it would be nice if we could see Iowa utilize those funds to attract people back to the area. I know that a vacation really is that window for people. All they have to do is come visit all the beautiful destinations across Iowa. They see the incredible quality of life that we have here, and it really sparks that interest that they may want to move here. So if we could utilize some of those funds to promote the tourism industry and encourage people to travel and enjoy some of these natural resources that we have, that would be a great use of the funds.
And it will still benefit Iowans because we know getting outdoors helps your mental health, it helps your physical health. And if we want to recover from this pandemic, we need to think of the health outcomes of how we use these resources.
Now, I have a question here from an audience member. She's wondering about partnerships that exist. Is there a feeling of good collaboration across the state, or there are too many individual organization efforts, perhaps, pulling in different directions?
I would say there's not enough partnerships, and one of those reasons is that it's hard to access the resources to support them. I think we need to diversify the resources available that partnerships can draw upon. A good example is after the 2008 floods, as part of the Surface Water Protection Act amendments that many Cedar Rapids legislators promoted, because Cedar Rapids and Lynn County was the hardest hit, created what we called watershed management authorities that allows cities, counties, soil and water districts, and other stakeholders in the same watershed. Let's forget the political boundaries. Let's focus on our watershed to come together and put together plans for flood resilience, water quality, and the other water quantity, source water issues that were exposed by the massive floods of 2008. We have 20 or 30 such groups. I saw Jim Erb on the call, mayor of Charles City. He was very much involved in one up in that direction. Most of these have really good comprehensive plans. Unfortunately, very little funding to implement those plans. Why? The legislature has never directed funding directly to watershed management authorities. And it's very difficult unless you have other people at the table to access some of the resources through Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship, watershed management initiative money, etc. So I think we need to be more intentional about getting the resources to where the problems exist in priority watersheds. If we sprinkle the money too far and wide, we make everybody happy, feeling like they're part of the solution, but we don't see any results because we never get to scale in any particular water body or watershed.
I just, time is running out a little bit here, but I wondered just, obviously places like Okuboji get lots of tourists, lots of visitors. I was on a panel earlier this summer just listening in, and David Thorson from up in that area, he said in some ways we're loving Okuboji to death in the sense that it's just, it's busy. I think I've seen 10 or so boats go behind you there,
Yep.
Rebecca, but I wonder if there are ways to draw people to some of the less visited lakes or rivers. I know that there's been some whitewater courses added in different parts of the state. Manchester and Cedar Rapids has a new study about it. What do you guys think about ideas like that?
I think that all of those things are great. The more we can tell people about the outdoor opportunities that they have, the better. My observation is that people really like to be guided right to what they're going to do. They're not always great at really, hold on. Oh, do you have me back? Sorry.
We can hear you, just not see you.
Okay,
there we
you
go.
can see me.
There we
Sorry
go.
about that. My observation is that people aren't always that great at finding their own options. So the more we can tell them about the options that they have, the better. And really over this last year, people were looking for places that maybe were a little bit out of what their normal perceptions were of where they could go and what they can do. And I think people in the Iowa Great Lakes area and in Dickinson County were shocked at truly how many lakes we have here and all the different recreational opportunities. People primarily think of Westlake, Okuboji, and Big Spirit and East and the chain, but there's so many more great little lakes throughout the area that people can go and kayak on and just enjoy. And I think people, if you tell them about it and if you let them know, I think they're willing to go find it and enjoy.
And I think, Aaron, we also need to think about the various ways that people come to the outdoors and be enterprising in that way. When I started hiking a lot more last year, I started bringing my camera along with me more often. And now I have great pictures of birds, other wildlife, and scenic vistas. We can start promoting our places, our destinations based on where the best picture taking is and get people interested primarily in photography to enjoy them. We can reach out to kids who love to chase butterflies. Where are the best parks to find butterflies, etc. By the way, this is pollinator week. And so we need to be promoting the great benefits of pollinators in this state, which is clean water is a big part of the survival of the folks who make the invertebrates that make our agricultural system work.
Clean water and also the plantings that we have throughout the state. So I know throughout our area, in terms of pollinators, we've got great plantings in all of our park area. And then the county has also added a roadside area program so that they plant pollinator friendly plants throughout all the roadsides throughout the entire county. So that's been really great as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with all those. I have two little girls, and we started to go out to some of the parks that we'd never been to before last year. And I also appreciate what Representative Eisenhardt said, that even when you are taking the good pictures, that one of my neighbors took beautiful two swans making a heart shape, but he posted on his own social media, only got 20 likes, and ISU retweeted and got probably 1,000. So I think we need more like higher officials, and not only DNR doing this sort of things, but it's a more concerted efforts of the legislators and the governors tweeting out these sort of the things. And also we know from the survey that people go to the DNR website to check for water qualities. But I think that having information about that, for me, for example, I would like to know what are the central Iowa destination for a family to enjoy if I want to go out for outdoor recreation. I think we should be more mindful, not just creating these lists, but also give them guide, as Rebecca said, to offer these sort of the tour guides for them.
Pointing people to ways that they can enjoy Iowa's water and might make them more aware of water quality in general. Well, we are almost out of time here, so unfortunately we're going to have to wrap up, but I want to thank our audience for participating here, and also thank our panel. We've got Rebecca Peters, the Director of Okuboji Tourism. We've got Wendong Zhang, an Associate Economics Professor at Iowa State and lead on the Iowa Lakes Survey, and Representative Chuck Eisenhardt, a Democrat from Dubuque. So thank you all for being here today, and I hope you have a good rest of your week.